two things before we begin. The first is throughout, I will be using the terms content marketing and content strategy interchangeably. And the second is this webinar is mostly focused on SaaS companies. Now, most of its learnings apply to other companies as well. Just keep that in mind. Okay, let's begin the agenda for today's webinar. First, we are going to take a look at the current landscape, then how content marketing is changing, then an introduction to our framework. And at that point, I will jump off the presentation to share a very useful resource that's also very related to what we are discussing. And I will leave you with a few key takeaways. And from there, of course, we can do some Q&A. Many interesting things here. Please stick until the end. It's very, very interesting. Let's begin. So we have an era, a ZIRP era, which stands obviously for zero interest rate policy, right? And that lasted for about 2 years. And boy, these were like 2 very good years, right? This era was characterized by a financial euphoria, growth at all costs. We had increased growth budgets, less generally ROI scrutiny, a hiring frenzy because companies wanted to grow and they needed to fuel that growth. And of course, we had long-term planning because when people are optimistic about the future, they tend to make long-term plans. Now, in 2022, the weather changed, right? And since 2022 until today, we have to operate at a completely different environment that's characterized by financial uncertainty. Companies need sustainable growth, whatever that means. It means different things for different companies. Limited growth budgets, increased ROI scrutiny, a hiring freeze, and short-term planning, okay? Now, to these things, you have to add 2 more things that make the environment even more complicated. The first is changes in search, or as the title here suggests, AI overviews, okay? Now, Google introduced AI overviews. Back then, they called it SG, Search Generative Experience, back in May 2023. And of course, at the beginning, there was an echo chamber and a lot of fear mongering from content marketers and people working in SEO about what the implications of this change are, right? Now, for the time being, this looks like a search feature, right? But Google insists, and just a small indication of that is that in their last earnings call for Q2, the term AI overviews was mentioned 14 times, right? And keep in mind that in earnings calls, you have only very senior people of the company, meaning that I don't think that they plan to pull back on AI overviews anytime soon. Now, this is important because search, for better or worse, has been one of the main vehicles for generating traffic, and as an extension, leads, pipeline, revenue, and so on and so forth from content marketers. Okay, now that's just one small part of the change, or a significant part of the change. Let me correct myself there, because another one is that AI overviews aside, the search results change a lot, right? And we have an example here. The term I'm using is best habit tracker apps. And as you can see here in the left of my screen, we have 9 out of 10 results being, you will excuse me the term, cookie cutter listicles, okay? Now, no disrespect to the brands that created those pieces of content, by the way. Now, on the right, and this is just 2 years, like the time that passed since the first screenshot is just 2 years. We have only 6 listicles, right? But we also have a result from Reddit, a YouTube video, and we also have a result from Hacker News, an app directory listing, and so on and so forth. So if we could summarize what we just saw, we would say that from 9 out of 10, we went to 6 out of 10 in just 2 years, right? And from the initial 9 results, only one, this is Zapier, a great company, is still in the top 10. We also have features now from forum like websites or thread-like websites like Reddit. Of course, we can debate on how useful they are, but for the time being, they are there, right? And I would say that the way we do content, even for search, changes, right? And moving forward, I don't expect cookie cutter SEO content to cut it when it comes to getting visibility, traffic, leads, and all the positive outcomes from content for search. Now, the second thing that we need to add to this very complicated environment is AI. Okay, now AI came into the mainstream really in 2022, right? And since then, obviously, it has been widely used and abused by content marketers and, broadly speaking, marketers, right, for all sorts of use cases. Now, the thing is, the main problem here is that most content marketers think that the biggest opportunity of AI for content marketing is written text. And it makes sense to a certain extent that they think of that because it's the most obvious use case. However, I think that this is not just wrong, but it's also a dangerous mindset because AI can go very wrong, okay? And in our obsession over spinning out content and scaling up and getting this cheaper and faster out there, in many cases we may encounter issues, if I could call it that way, like this one. This company, obviously, I'm not, for privacy purposes, I'm not going to name the company, but they rolled out more than 3.5K programmatic pages in different formats like app listicles, glossary, and whatnot. And they started seeing the first organic growth results in Q3, Q4 2023, which is here, okay, the growth phase. And of course, this is when you see a lot of LinkedIn posts with excitement about the results. Now, in February 2024, the company had, which is here, the small hiccup here, the company had a sitemap issue that caused a loss in traffic, and there was a recovery after the issue was fixed, which is great. However, on August 15th, Google rolled out in its latest core update, okay? And it seems that since then, the website's traffic, is declining, okay? Now, according to SEMrush, the organic traffic went from around 413K visits per month to 245. That's a pretty much 45% decrease. And Ahrefs reports similar results. The two tools are pretty close here, so we could safely assume that this website and brand, they lost pretty much 40% of their traffic, okay? And in many cases, it depends on many different factors, of course. Loss in traffic can result in loss in revenue, leads, and unfortunately, loss in headcount, okay? Because they have to let people go because they can't sustain such big of a team, right? So I would say that we have to sort of rethink whether, or better understand what the best use cases for AI are, okay? The real opportunity and the biggest opportunity for me of AI for content marketing is creating experiences for a multi-touch, non-linear, fragmented customer journey, and of course, attaining productivity gains, right? That can help us, do all sorts of things that we couldn't do had it not been for AI. Now, 3 examples here. The first, I mentioned the word experiences. And as you can see here, the first on the left, the first screenshot I have is from a GPT we created that helps you build your content strategy, right? You can also find it as an artifact on Reforge's artifacts library, right? This is an experience we created and that, could potentially be the touch point of a potential client with our agency Minutia, okay? Then apps. Content marketers traditionally have this excuse of I want to build this tool, this calculator, and integrate it in my post, but unfortunately I don't have design or development time. Well, guess what? Now you can do that. And if I can do that, I created this UTM builder with Claude and hosted, as they call it, artifacts as well. I hosted it as an artifact in less than 2 minutes, okay? And this leaves no excuses, because now content marketers have all the tools to design and build apps, for all sorts of use cases. And then I also mentioned productivity gains, because, and that's just an example, right? This leads to a video where I walk you through a process of how to identify the best internal linking opportunities for your website, like regardless of like the size of your content inventory, in just a few steps and in like just a few minutes, right? And rest assured, this is a far better way than trying to do it manually or relying on tools that are out there. And I wouldn't be able to do that had it not been for AI. So we have to leave this notion behind us that the best use case for AI is written text, because, as I mentioned previously, this can lead to unfortunate experiences like this, okay? Now, content marketing is changing, and we have to navigate this like very complicated environment, but there are other things that we need to take into account as well. Content marketing used to be about organic search and, for the most part, cookie cutter SEO content. Used to be keyword first, blog first. It was always about the blog, right? We had the funnel, which I guess served us well to a certain extent, but I think that we have to move past the funnel. It was, always about organic clicks. That's why you would see these screenshots in Google, on LinkedIn, from Google Search Console, and content marketers and SEO professionals celebrating the results that they bring. It was about content quantity, which was prioritized over content quality, right? Last touch attribution, because that was a way for us to justify our existence and our seat at the table. ROI, for the most part, of course, was a taboo. Little to no creativity, human only, an introvert approach, and with high dependency on other teams or departments. This changes, okay? We don't have just SEO content, and we can't have just SEO content nowadays. We should also have original content and multimedia content, okay? It can't be just keywords. It should be also, let's try to understand what our audience wants us to talk about. And let's try to understand what our customers, people who, give us their credit card details and allows us to charge them every month, what they want us to talk about. It used to be about the blog, but you have to start thinking about the whole website and how you can leverage different sections of it: social media, dark social, and what we call at Minutia media singulars. Okay, more on that in a minute. It used to be about the funnel, but the way I see it, the funnel served us well, but we have to start thinking about experiences for a messy, fragmented, and non-linear lifecycle journey. Okay. It used to be about organic clicks, but what's the point of bringing in clicks and like visits if you don't care about like, okay, we got the views. What about view to lead? What about lead to conversion? And what about from lead to conversion to LTV, right? And payback period. So we have to start caring about more than just like screenshots that we can post on LinkedIn showing how good we are at driving organic clicks. Of course, content quality should go hand in hand with content quantity, right? And last touch attribution in a messy, fragmented, non-linear life cycle should be replaced by hybrid attribution. ROI nowadays is not just necessary, but it's essential. Plus, when ROI is not there, we can combine it, or we can use, or we can try to build at least impact narratives to explain what we are doing, some of the longer term bets we are taking, and so on. Little to no creativity, I think that belongs to the past. Creativity needs to sit at the top, okay? Human only, I would say that content marketing will be about human first, yes, but assisted by AI, okay? Not just for written text, as we saw earlier. introvert approach, I think this should be replaced with an extrovert approach. And companies who get that win. And of course, being highly dependent on like designers and developers in-house and like they don't give me time. I think as I said a few slides ago, that's a mindset you should leave behind, because nowadays you can be self-reliant and you have all the tools to do things by yourself. Okay. Now, the question is, why do we need a different way to how we strategize and how we practice content marketing? First, because we need more customization, right? There isn't a cookie cutter and one size fits all approach to content strategy. Second, because as I explained, and as we will see in a minute, there will be many interesting examples. Bear with me. We need to go multi-format, okay? The blog first and text only approach, I think it won't cut it anymore, okay? Then the environment is dynamic and things change all the time. So we have to be flexible, right? And I think that the framework I'm about to share will allow you to be flexible in a dynamic and ever-evolving environment. And the role itself, the role of the content marketer is changing, right? I think that content marketers traditionally used to be just about content writing and maybe just a bit of like promotion. I think that changes, and the expectations around the role change as well. Okay, now let's get to the framework. The framework is this. As you can see, we have four like pillars, let's say, and we start from the bottom with the content types that are available for SaaS companies. We continue with the content formats under each of these content types. Then we bring in the 8 dimensions of our framework for building a successful content strategy. And after mapping these dimensions to the right content types and formats, we have our content strategy. Now, I will jump off for a minute and I will get to this Miro board, which you all can have access to because it's a Reforge artifact, okay? Now, as you can see here, at the top, we have the content types and formats, okay? We have website content, and we also have multimedia content. And under that, the content types are product-focused content, SEO content, original content, and we also have multimedia content, okay? Now, under each of these content types, we have different formats. For example, SEO content, we have informational, job to be done, linkable assets, and so on. Original content, things like surveys, invented concepts, creative analogies, narratives, and so on and so forth, okay? This is the first part, like understanding the content types and formats. Then we have to see the dimensions, okay? Let me go through the dimensions real quick. First, we have the company stage. Your content strategy should be tailored to you. I see we already have a request for the Miro board. So the company stage should be tailored, your content strategy, sorry, should be tailored to your, and adjusted to your company stage, okay? Because different companies in different stages should be doing entirely different things. And that's one of the things that I'm very surprised that people still don't get, okay? Then we have competition. Are you operating at a category that's fairly new or a very like competitive category? That's something that, you know, affects your content strategy. Then, you know, what about your objectives? We have 5 objectives: increase brand value, thought leadership, which, by the way, thought leadership is an objective. It's not a content type. There is no let's do thought leadership content. There is let's do content that will allow us to establish ourselves as thought leaders. We have amplification, we have educate and support, and we have generate revenue. Depending on what your objectives are, you should do different things. That should be obvious. It's not. Then we have difficulty, right? And when I say difficulty, I mean, do you want to play things on like easy mode, or are you comfortable going a bit harder, okay? Then we have your budget. What's the budget you have available, right? Your budget simply changes the way, or not changes the way, but determines what options are available for you, right? Then we have the life cycle stage you are targeting and, you know, are most interested in. we have the distribution avenues that are available to you based on like the types of content and formats that you choose, and of course, the company's growth motion, okay? Now let's get back to the presentation. So we have the content types, we have the content formats, we bring in the 8 dimensions that we just saw, and of course, then we need to map the content types formats to each dimension, okay, and the options underneath it. Now, I will go through these 8 dimensions, and I will be sharing an example for each, just to make the point of like how important it is to tailor your strategy, taking into account these 8 dimensions. Let's start with the first, which is the company stage, featuring Routine Base, which is an early stage company. And as you can see here, one piece that we did is we tried these 4 habit tracker apps that, you know, essentially the topic we are interested in here is best habit tracker apps, okay? But we don't take the traditional approach of let's just, you know, use a content optimization tool. Let's do a listicle with like 23 best habit tracker apps and call it a day, because we are at an earlier stage. We know that we have, you know, no chances if we take that approach. So we took a different approach. We had one of our team members actually try 4 habit tracker apps for 1 month, and then we did a piece based on that. Now, let me just say that this is not scalable. It's obviously more expensive, and of course, you can't do that in like any case for any topic. But these are the kinds of decisions you have to make based on the stage you are at. And I would say that this should be like your guiding principle. Like, are we early stage? Are we like, have we reached the product market fit? Are we in the growth stage? We should be doing different things, okay? Dimension number 2, competition. This is a very interesting example. I assume that most of you know a company called V.io. They are actually nowadays they are, you know, they do too many things around video editing. And one of the company's main growth motions or growth channels is organic search, okay? And it's very interesting because when vid came into the scene, it wasn't as if there weren't any other video editing tools. But the interesting thing is that none of the other tools was leveraging organic search as a growth channel. And it strikes me as like very odd that they missed this opportunity. So then, you know, vid came and they understood that, well, there is an opportunity here. And they started launching page after page for different use cases of the product. Most of these pages live under their tools subfolder. And I would say they tried to become the Canva of video editing, which, you know, judging from the results and from you know, their growth, at least what is publicly available and what we know, they did a very good job at leveraging this opportunity, okay? So they understood that the competition for this particular channel is relatively low, and they attacked this opportunity, okay? And of course, their strategy paid out big time. Third dimension, objective. A great example here, one of my favorite examples, SEMrush. Just go visit SEMrush's LinkedIn page profile, okay? They do things in a very unique way. And we did an analysis, by the way, on how they do content on LinkedIn. And what we found is that they publish around 26 posts per month, okay, based on our analysis. And there are 2 dominant content types for their SEMrush LinkedIn page. These are posts on SEO and marketing, adding value, trying to be helpful, and so on. And then they also have this humorous content, okay? And this humorous content gets, on average, around 1,500 engagements, which is way higher than what you would expect from a company page to get on LinkedIn, right? Now, you could argue that, yeah, but they are a public company and they have all these resources and whatnot. Yeah, just visit their LinkedIn profile and see if that's something that requires a public company to be able to execute on this strategy. It's not. It's just that they are pretty clear about, or they have a very, it starts by being very clear about what their audience is and what they expect, right? And also what the objective is behind the content they produce. Because I don't expect that they expect that by publishing this piece of content, they will get signups. But I expect that they expect that by publishing this piece of content, they will, create a viral piece of content and get eyeballs on this piece of content. And there's an extension on the SEMrush brand. So you have to be extremely clear about what your objectives are, okay? And take that into account, factor it in when you build your content strategy. Then we have difficulty. And as I mentioned, do you want to go on easy mode, or you are comfortable getting a bit uncomfortable? The example we have here is from SlideBean. And SlideBean, I have a screenshot from their YouTube channel because, it's one of the greatest case studies of like growth and leveraging a channel to get visibility and get people to know about your product, learn about your product. So they started using their channel as a growth vehicle around 6 years ago. Today, the channel has over 360 videos and more than 500,000 subscribers, and gets, more than 982,000 views per month, which is astonishing, right? For a YouTube channel of a company, essentially. And interestingly, its content has little to do with presentation and pitch decks, which is what SlideBean do, but it's aimed towards a specific audience, which, my assumption is it's SlideBean's audience. But rest assured, what they do here is extremely difficult. It's not easy for anyone to do and replicate. They go on hard mode. And from what I hear, it goes well for them, okay? Dimension number 5, budget. A great example here, the Flow by Hockey Stack, which, they run an operation on low budget, because the Flow by Hockey Stack, which what we call at Minutia or what we call as a media singular, they launched it back in July 2023 with a 3K monthly budget, which is, for most standards, low, right? The Netflix for B2B included 24 shows on topics around marketing, attribution, revenue growth, and so on. And in just 9 months, the platform drove more than 8 million in pipeline, okay? Now, this is a great example. Why? Because they understood that, okay, with the budget we have available, we can't go, for example, we can take the SEO route, or we can't take like an approach that would require a higher budget. We have to be creative. And what they did is that they got creative, and it worked, okay? Number 6, life cycle stage, featuring Wise, formerly TransferWise. Wise created several pages targeting the routing numbers of other banks, for example, Bank of America, okay? According to SEMrush, this folder that contains all these pages brings in around 680,000 visits per month. And most of these people are from the unaware stage. But that's okay, because it's a part of Wise's strategy, okay? The thing is that you have to be able to understand when you plan or when you try to communicate such initiatives internally, that and set the right expectations, most importantly, that, you know what, we are going to launch this new section, but keep in mind the life cycle stage we are targeting, and there's an extension, the objective, and like the potential outcome from this initiative. So the life cycle stage is unaware. So we shouldn't expect that people will come here and just sign up for a Wise account, right? And this is just a great example of how, bringing clarity into like what your life cycle stage is can create great results for that stage that you're targeting, right? Distribution, which is the 7th dimension. I saw at some point a company publishing an alternatives listicle they did on LinkedIn, and I'm like, man, why do they do that? I mean, that's not the right place to distribute, quote unquote, an alternatives listicle. because usually alternatives listicles are being distributed through organic search, right? The thing is that if you're not clear as to, I have these content types and like formats, and these are the distribution avenues I have available. If you're not clear about that, then, things like that can happen. The example I have here is from one of our clients, Musant, and they have a piece of content, as you can see here. It's a case study on how Exploding Topics grew their newsletter to more than 100,000 subscribers. Okay, and so this is an original piece of content. That's how we call it. It falls under that content type. And original pieces of content usually are like very good and perform well when you distribute them through organic social. Okay, and so what I did, and please don't check my X account because it's by no means up to date, or I'm not so active there. But what I did is just create a thread using information from this piece of content. Okay, and as you can see here, even from a tiny account like mine on Twitter, on X, sorry, more than 13,000 views, right? And likes and bookmarks and so on and so forth. But this is because original content by design performs well on organic social. Okay, and you need to keep that in mind. This is one of the things that you should factor in when building your content strategy. And last but not least, we have the growth motion, because the growth motion of the company you are working at, or you're running, or whatever, affects what content types and content formats you should use, and what content you should do at the end of the day. Okay, so the great example we have here is Clay, which is I would argue PLG, and their growth motion is PLG. And as you can see here, what they do is that they have this creator program, which is designed according to them for GTM thought leaders, and they create content with the help of these thought leaders. Okay, and this of course brings a consistent word of mouth and obviously relationship building, and Clay always being present and part of the conversation, right? And according to their growth, we did a case study on them. You can find it on GrowthWave's website, which I will share the link in a minute. According to their growth timeline, or to their growth trajectory, it works really well. Okay, but the thing is that in Clay's case, you need something that like brings in high volumes of like leads, which some of them will turn into paid customers and so on. Okay, and again, this affects your growth motion, affects what kind of content types and formats and distribution avenues and so on are available to you. Okay, I will leave you with this, which is not really key takeaways, just things I tell my team, and I also share with clients and friends, and I say to myself as well. The first would be to not feel complacent. Things right now change and move really fast, and you have to be on top of any change, right? Embrace the change and don't be afraid of it, right? Experiment. For example, you can experiment, and you should in fact experiment with AI. No matter your position, you may be in a high position and you may have a team. You shouldn't expect your team to experiment. You should be the one showing them the ropes. Understand obviously the current landscape, because it's a very unique environment we have to operate in. Get in the trenches, get out there and see things for yourself and try out new things and so on. And of course, get out of your comfort zone. Okay. If you want to connect, the CTA, I guess, of this webinar would be feel free to connect on LinkedIn, sign up for GrowthWaves, and check out GrowthWaves Pro, where we have premium content and like a series of other things. And check out Minucio's website. Now, the two resources that I recommend as part of like what we just discussed, obviously you will have access to the Google Slides deck, so no need to worry about that. But you can have access to this framework here, this Miro board, which is pretty intense, as you can see here. It's a Reforge artifact. It's published, and you can access it. And you also can have access to our GPT, the GPT we built, which essentially, the knowledge base of the GPT is everything you can see here, okay? And if you prefer, if you're a visual type, feel free to use the Miro board. If you prefer chat-like manner of building your content strategy, feel free to use our content strategy GPT. And with that, I will stop sharing my screen, and hopefully there will be some questions to take.
Thank you, George. And actually, I've been sending the links to your artifacts in chat, so folks can refer to them live. So we've got a handful of questions submitted. So the first question comes from Victoria. How do you combine creativity and keyword search plus search engine results page intent?
So that's a great question. But you saw the example. In the example I searched for routine base, the target keyword is thank you, Tracy. Thank you very much for joining us. So the target keyword was or is best habit tracker apps. Okay, but as I mentioned, like, had we taken the traditional approach and the easy path, we would just collect a list of habit tracker apps that are mentioned by the top ranking results, and we would create a listicle, okay? But again, I don't think that for an early stage company that could work. Now, if you're Zapier, that could work, but you are Zapier, okay? So we took it a more creative approach, and what we did is that, again, we did a listicle, which means that we are aligned with the SERP intent, because that's what people expect to see. But we actually used these habit tracker apps for 1 month, okay? Again, that's not easy to do. It's not scalable. It's more expensive, labor intensive, and so on and so forth. But it's not as if there aren't ways to be more creative while be aligned with what people expect to see for that specific keyword term and so on. I hope that answers your question, Victoria.
And another question that we got from Tracy in Q&A was just, if you're new to marketing and trying to get a new business off the ground, do you need to have previous training to get this content strategy started to be successful? What advice would you have for somebody just trying to get started?
The advice I would give to someone new getting into marketing, and let's say in a B2B SaaS context, okay, I would urge them to not look at what other B2B SaaS companies do, because if you take a look at what they do, and the closer you monitor them, the more you become like them, okay? So I think that especially B2B SaaS desperately needs a different perspective, creativity that's brought from DTC, CBG, and all these other industries. So I would suggest that you have to nail or grasp some of the fundamentals. Like, for example, for B2B SaaS, this is what the journey looks like, and so on and so forth. But then the moment you grasp these fundamentals, stop and start looking outside of this industry, because again, you will have a very myopic view of what I should do to drive results.
Now let's get a little bit more tactical. How do you adapt content to reflect the value prop across different media formats and different stages of the funnel?
That's a good question, which I guess may be a bit out of the topic of today's webinar. But I would suggest that to maintain alignment, you have to document, what that align, or you have to document what people should do, what the expectation is, right? That this is how we represent our brand, and so on and so forth. I think that this is not I think that earlier stage companies should be concerned about. at the end of the day, when you're at an early stage, like who cares really, right? As you grow and you bring more attention, and especially like bigger companies, like public companies and whatnot, there has to be alignment there. But I would say that you can ensure alignment by documenting or making specific, putting in writing what alignment looks like, what it means. Okay, so a document and regular follow-ups and meetings and workshops even to explain like this is what alignment looks like. I think that would like do the job.
Now, in this last minute, I'm going to combine two last questions from folks. So one, it came from chat. Somebody wants to know, what are the main cons of the meme strategy? Like SEMrush. And follow-up question to that is, how frequently do you have to post content to build your following? So what are the main cons of the meme strategy, and then how often do you have to post?
Anna, thank you very much for the question. I don't see any cons with the meme strategy as long as you don't discuss like controversial topics or as long as you don't offend anyone and so on and so forth, right? You have to be very careful regarding that. So I don't see anything negative there. And in terms of how often, the favorite marketing answer ever, it depends, right? Because it really depends on like the platform, the channel. Generally speaking, though, I am pro higher publishing frequencies and publishing velocities, at least until you build an audience and you build a foundation. Then you can you can decrease it a bit, you can loosen it up a bit. But until you get to that point, yeah, I would suggest that you have to publish often.
Awesome. Well, on that note, George, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with everybody today.